Now taking the field, your starting lineup for the Washed Up Podcast. Batting first, he's got hot takes and harder swings. Nate Mueller. In the 2 spot, breaking down plays and calling out the refs, Alex Schneider. And batting third, bringing the heat with no filter, Derek Dunn. This is the Washed Up Podcast. Baseball, football, and more, where the game never ends and the takes keep coming. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to the Washed Up Podcast. I'm your host, Nate. I'm joined tonight by my co-hosts, Schneiders and Derek. Episode 6 tonight will be full of sports news and recaps. It will also include our last edition of the position preview segment. You know what that means. Division and playoff predictions for the 2025 NFL season comes next week. Be sure to stay tuned to the end of the show to catch the Washed Up trivia. Help us decide who this week's loser is by voting on our poll on Spotify. We have reached 170 plays. Thank you for supporting our show, and if you've yet to do so, please like, comment, and subscribe to all of our socials. If you are a TikToker, be sure to check us out there at the Washed Up Podcast. Derek, our social media guru, recently uploaded all of our shows to YouTube, so if that's your thing, check us out there at the Washed Up Podcast 25. And remember, this isn't Sports Center, this is the Washed Up version. First, we want to apologize for being a day late for you guys. I know I got some messages about how we didn't have a show out this morning for people's on their drive to work. So we want to apologize for that. We had some real life stuff come up that we weren't able to make the time constraint jive for us last night. So we are recording tonight. It is August 21st. This is episode 6. First, we want to start off by recapping our golf scramble from last Sunday. Schneiders and I, unfortunately, lost by 1 stroke. There were some really good shots. I actually almost chipped one in. And we had a really good time.
Yeah, another great game of golf for being the 4th time out for me. I'm hoping that we can kind of turn it into like a washed up podcast, scramble thing that we do, every so often and play. But good group of friends, a good time. Heartbreaking loss. Some key shots by Derek and his partner Tyler to really kind of secure them the victory. We all played pretty well. We recovered well on some bad shots, and just all in all, a really good time, and I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, overall, just a really good time. Everybody, for the most part, I thought played pretty well. It was a good way to have a little bit of a competition, but also, still have a good time while doing it all together. So, definitely think it's going to be something that we keep doing moving forward, and we'll kind of see where it goes from there.
Yeah, so Schneiders and I, we shot a 92 by my count. So that means Derek and his partner Tyler shot a 91. We had him by 2 strokes on the front 9, but the back 9 was not kind to Schneiders and I. All right. Let's get into some MLB news. I have a list here of a bunch of stuff. You don't realize it, but a week's worth of games and transactions and things like that, they can add up to quite a bit. Cal Riley hit his 47th home run. Phillies ace Zach Wheeler, he had surgery on Monday to remove a blood clot in his upper right arm. That sounded kind of scary to me. I'm glad they got that taken care of. There's been some controversy surrounding Ketel Marte with the Diamondbacks. They say he's been a clubhouse issue for them following his absence after the All-Star break robbery of his home. He missed 3 extra games after the All-Star break, and I guess a lot of players in that clubhouse were not happy with that. seeing as they just had a long break. They were trying to compete, and so far they sold and not competing. So we'll see if that leads to a trade of Ketel Marte or what exactly happens there in Arizona. Scooble of the Tigers, he got his 200th strikeout for this year so far. We'll see how many he can rack up. Craig Kimbrell signed a major league deal with the Astros just for the rest of this year. And today, the Rays called up their number one prospect, shortstop Carson Williams. I believe he won minor league player of the year like last year or the year before. He's a really good defender. Excited to see how his career plays out. And then Paul Blackburn signed a deal with the Yankees after recently being cut by the Mets. And just in the last couple days, MLB and ESPN are talking about a deal that would potentially be similar to what they did with the NFL. So we might see MLB TV be an ESPN thing. We might see some of the regional networks. I don't know what's going to play out. It'll be interesting to see what goes on there. I hope that it doesn't make it harder to watch baseball because it's already difficult sometimes. I pay for MLB TV to watch my Braves, and the last 3 days, I've not been able to watch the games, only listen to the radio feed because they're playing the White Sox, and I'm apparently in the White Sox market. I think it would go a long way for Major League Baseball and ESPN to end blackouts completely. I think fans would be really happy about that. As far as the Braves, Michael Harris has been one of the best hitters in baseball since the All-Star break. I know last show I mentioned it. He's still red hot. The Braves are 11-3 in their last 14, so they've heated up quite a bit. Pitching has been but their offense is really taken off. A strong point for the rotation has been Hurston Waldrop, rookie pitcher for them. He was strong in 6 scoreless as the Braves threw a combined 2-hitter against the Guardians. And then he followed that by last night's start. He threw 7 innings shutout ball, striking out 7, and the Braves ended up winning 1-0. Acuna did come off the IL. He's back playing. He's kind of been slow back. He hasn't really hit very well since he's been back. So hopefully that'll turn around. I'm hoping they kind of get on all cylinders by the end of the year. Maybe it'll lead into next year. They also beat the White Sox after being down 10-4 on Tuesday. So they had a comeback win there. And then on Monday, they actually lost 13-9 to the White Sox. So 2 out of those 3 games were really high-scoring games, and then they had 1-0 last night. Thought it was kind of crazy how baseball works like that. Strider pitched in the game on Monday, and he has been really bad. His velocity's down, and so because he relied so heavily on 99 up in the zone and being able to locate the slider, since he's only throwing like 94, 95 miles an hour now, he's really struggling. I'm not sure if he can turn it around. I hope so. And then Austin Riley today he underwent season-ending abdominal surgery, but they say he'll be ready for spring training in 26. Schneids?
Yeah, so not much to really talk a whole lot about with the Cardinals. It's pretty much status quo for the whole season minus the month of May, but they got swept by the Yankees. They've clearly shown that they do not have the talent for winning now, but the future, like I've said numerous times, looks very bright. Got some pitchers that are really young that are showing a lot of promise. They have a lot of just regular fielders and hitters that are showing a lot of promise. Right now, with some of the injuries going around, you can kind of get a glimpse of that because it's like half a AAA roster, half a Major League roster, which, if I'm a Cardinals fan, that's what's probably having me tune into the games right now, is being able to see what the future holds for them. Like I said, you're getting a glimpse of that. Victor Scott II has a sprained ankle. He was placed on the 10-day IL on Sunday. And Brendan Donovan out with a left foot and some groin soreness, as well as Wilson Contreras still dealing with a foot issue. Like I said before, the Cardinals are pretty short-handed. So I'm really hoping that they kind of let the rest of the season, let guys like Brendan Donovan and Wilson Contreras, let them heal up, quite nicely. I think that would be great for them. But they're 4-6 in their last 10. They're still like 17 games back. So I just, let the young guys play to finish out the year, whatever you need to get through the rest of the season, and then see what it looks like for next year. I don't think that they should really call anybody up, in my opinion, when it comes to September. I don't want these young promising stars to get, I shouldn't say stars, but young promising players just to come up and get a month worth of MLB time. It's hard to really gauge how well they're doing when, the team is not performing well. So, but yeah, pretty much like I said, same thing, status quo for the Cardinals. It's not going well. They try to put up a fight, and then it ends up going downhill. So.
All right. There's one other signing that I forgot to mention in the news. Nathaniel Lowe signed a 1-year deal with the Red Sox. They've had kind of a hole at first base since Tristan Casas went down, so he's probably going to get quite a bit of run at first for the Red Sox, I'd imagine. I want to get in a little bit of this MLB realignment talk that's been going around. I'm sure if you're a baseball fan, you've seen Manfred made a comment about geographical realignment for the major leagues to try and cut down on travel, renew rivalries, or maybe create some new ones. I'm going to go with the history here of some of the expansions that the MLB has had. They started with 16 teams in 1901, and they didn't have any expansion teams added until 1961 when the Angels and Washington Senators came in. In 1962, they added the Houston Colt 45s and the Mets. In 69, they added the Expos, Padres, Royals, and Seattle Pilots. That took them to 24 in 1969. And then some of the more recent ones, 1977 was the Seattle Mariners and Toronto Blue Jays, take them to 26. In 93, they added the Rockies and Marlins. And then in 98, they added the Diamondbacks and Devil Rays. That brought us to 30. And obviously, we've not seen any expansion since then. I've seen a lot of different ways you could do this. I've seen a lot of 4-team divisions. It'd be 8 4-team divisions. And to me, I know Schneids and I discussed this the other night just a little bit. The cities that they're considering for expansion, to me, seems unfair to a city like Montreal. So with the geographical realignment, the only way it makes sense to me is to expand by 2 teams, but instead of having 4-team divisions and 8 divisions, I think what they should do, which they probably won't, this is probably more of a fantasy than anything, I think they should add the Nashville Stars, or whatever they're going to call them, and the Montreal Expos, and take it to 32 and run 4 divisions. And the 4 divisions that I think they should run they're similar to the one that ESPN put out, and this would put them at a 154-game schedule. But what I have here is Seattle, the Dodgers. Oh no, I got that backwards. Hold on. It would be Colorado, the Angels, Seattle, the Las Vegas Athletics, San Francisco Giants, Diamondbacks, Dodgers, and Padres. And that would be like your West. And then you would have like Midwest, I guess. It'd be Kansas City, Texas, Houston, Minnesota, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Milwaukee. And then I guess you could call this like the Southeast or the South or Central. It would be Nashville, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, Miami, Cincinnati, Chicago Cubs, Chicago White Sox, and the Cardinals. And then I have the Yankees, Mets, Red Sox, Phillies, Nationals, Orioles, Blue Jays, and Montreal as the Eastern Division, or, Atlantic Division, whatever you want to say. ESPN put out it would be a 4 division. I'm just going to run through this, and then Schneids, I'll get your comment. They have the AL East, the AL South, the NL Central, and the NL West. So what they have for the East is actually exactly like mine. The South, they have different. They have the Braves, the Rays, the Guardians, Reds, Tigers, Marlins, Pirates, and then the Nashville team. Then they have the Central as the Astros, Brewers, Cardinals, Twins, White Sox, Cubs, Rangers, and Royals, which I kind of like that because when I was doing it, I was trying to keep Kansas City, Chicago, and the Cardinals in the same division. I struggled with the geography of it, since that's what they're aiming for. And then the NL West would be Dodgers, Mariners, Giants, Padres, Angels, Diamondbacks, Athletics, and Rockies. So that's, I don't know, I threw around some ideas. I think if you do 4-team divisions, it makes it tough to make the geography make sense and still get Montreal a team. So, what do you think, Schneids?
My question would be so obviously, I know the big hit right now when it comes to expansion teams, Nashville's brought up a ton, not just in baseball, in other sports too. It's a bit, if people who have never been to Nashville, the stories that you hear about Nashville from, are pretty true. It's a nightlife place. It's an always happening place. The one that you sent me that I actually took a screenshot of has Charlotte as the other one. That one, to me, I don't understand. Especially, like you said, and like we talked about the other day, Montreal is just begging to have a team come back and play. I don't understand why. Two things, I guess, I don't understand. One, I don't know why you can't just leave things the way they are and then just add the 2 teams into a division and just run, them as a 5, or 6 team, division. To me, that just makes the most sense because sports is always, kind of expanding and looking for things to do. So there's probably going to be more at some point. And then the second thing that I don't understand is trying to make the travel make more sense, but yet we just made that big change a few years ago where every team plays every team. So I don't understand how that necessarily saves on travel unless you go back to where you play a lot of your games in the division and then, games here or there are against, other things, other divisions, because you're still going to have to fly to, San Francisco. You're still going to have to fly to New York. You still got to fly to Florida, even if you're trying to save on travel. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And the second part of that one, when I hear, we're trying to save on travel, to me, that sounds like the owners are getting together and they're like, well, what can we do to put more money in our pockets? I understand it's a business. I'm not dumb in that regard. But at the same time, you as a professional sports team depend on your fans to put that money in your pocket. So I just, like I said, you're still, the Cardinals are still going to fly to Los Angeles or San Francisco or San Diego. They're still going to fly to Miami. They're still going to fly to New York. They're still going to fly to Houston. They're going to go to all these places. This doesn't save you any on travel. This doesn't save you any on money for travel. I think it's crazy. Just add the 2 teams in, put them in a division, run it with that many people in it, and then in the next few years, we're going to be having the same conversation about, oh, well, we have 2 more teams coming in. It's time to redraft all the divisions again. And I just think that we're going to go in a weird loop around the sun here, trying to figure out how we're going to fit more and more teams into like the field of play when it comes to like how games and stuff are going to work. Like there's a whole lot of this that, to me, that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense when it comes to reevaluating the divisions in baseball.
Yeah, I think, part of it is if you add 2 teams, it just is going to make 2 divisions lopsided. Like what we talked about, I don't know, it was probably about a week ago, about how, Houston was in the NL Central forever, and they had 6 teams, and then the AL West only had 4. So I don't know how that plays to like fairness to the teams because of how many teams are in your division. But one of the things that they've thrown around is to cut the season down by 6 games. And then, according to this ESPN article, you'd have 3 games against each team in the other league. So that's 48. 12 against your division opponents. This would be a 4-team division. 12 against your division opponents. So that'd be 36 games. And then 6 against other intra-league opponents, which would be 72. So that would get you to, let's see, 108, 156. I've seen a few different things. I think you would see less interleague play if it came to radical realignment like this. I think you have to do something, whether it be 4 divisions of 8 teams or 8 divisions of 4 teams, just to make it even for everyone when you add 2 teams. And this is something that's been talked about for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. They've discussed getting to 32 teams. That's where I think they want to be. But it'll be interesting to see how it actually plays out. I mean, we haven't had any, teams added since 98. So one of the other sports shows I listened to, they were talking like this would be a thing that would come up in the collective bargaining agreement that's coming out soon, that they're going to start working on. And I bet in the next 5 years, those 2 expansion teams will happen, probably by 2030 or so, because you're going to have the A's are building a new ballpark, the Rays are going to be building a new ballpark, and if they can get 2 more cities to build new ballparks, I think it's a very plausible thing to happen in the next 5 years.
Well, here's another thing to think about. So I wish that the NFL would do something similar to this, because since the 70s, the NFL have added 2 teams, both the Panthers and the Jags in 95. So, I mean, you're talking about adding 2 new markets since 1970. It's 2025. The fact that some of these other big cities don't have teams to help expand the game just blows my mind. I mean, like St. Louis, I think St. Louis should have a team. Why we don't have a team, I mean, we all know, well, most people from St. Louis know what happened with the Rams and everything like that. But, I mean, to use an example, the NHL right now, I feel like is one of those sports that is like gaining in popularity. But I also don't think it's a coincidence that they've been expanding to new cities and expanding that reach to fans who wouldn't have access to it before. So as a fan of the game, I think it is exciting because it makes it almost feel refreshed when you add expansion teams, because not only are you adding, teams to the already wide pool of teams that you've got, but you're also adding in fans that, didn't have quote unquote a representative before, and just capturing that many new fans. It's just something that I wish the NFL would do. I've been saying that for a while. I think that we have a few markets around the nation, and even, across the ocean to Europe, and even going into Canada, there's some teams that I think that we could do. Now, I think those are a little bit further down the line, but there are plenty of markets here in America that the NFL could expand to, and It just blows my mind that I know it's probably a logistical nightmare, but I just think there's so many cities out there that could be great markets for teams that just don't have them.
I mean, it's pretty crazy if you look at like the MLB map, like where teams are, and you think about the cities that are booming cities that don't have them. There's a list of like 6 or 7 cities that could realistically have a team. Charlotte, Nashville, Salt Lake City was mentioned. Portland was mentioned. Montreal. They even had Orlando, Florida on there. Like, for it to be, working on 30 years since we've had expansion in the NFL or the MLB, and to see the amount of growth that both of those leagues have had. Like the NHL, they've done, They've got the Las Vegas Golden Knights. They got Seattle. And then Utah's an expansion as well, right?
Correct. Well, no. Utah used to be the Arizona Coyotes.
That's right. They moved. But like the NHL's expanding. Why? I mean, I think that once the NFL got to 32 teams, they were like, "Oh, this is good," And that's where the MLB is trying to get to. And like I said earlier, I think if you add 2 teams, you almost can't just plug them in. You would have to realign somehow. Now, it might be something silly, like I was talking to Schneids the other day when we were golfing about how the Atlanta Braves used to be in the National League West. So, like, some of these things need to be reevaluated every so often and fixed. I mean, I think it would be cool to have some of these teams in division, and, like the Mets and Yankees, you're not just getting them 1 series a year or 2 series a year. You're getting them, their division opponents at this point. So you're seeing that rivalry often. Same could be said for the Cardinals and Royals, or the Cardinals and Cubs, the Cubs and White Sox. I'm sure if Nashville had a team, that would be an Atlanta rival. I think that part of it would add a lot more, because I miss the days in the early 2000s when the rivalry thing was a big deal. Like, if the Yankees and Red Sox were playing, like, I was finding a way to watch the game. If the Cardinals and Cubs were playing, it was a big deal, like we were watching it. The rivalries give something different to sports that I think the MLB should capitalize on with a realignment and try and keep some of these teams together. And like I said, when I did the 8 divisions of 4 teams, when I was writing them out, it's really hard to make the geography and the make sense with the amount of teams and where they're located. So I'm definitely going to be, looking out for more stuff about the realignment, but I just wanted to see what you guys' thoughts were on it and give this little tidbit of our opinion to the viewers, and go from there.
One more thing here, though, that I want to add to this. Well, actually, it's 2 things. One, the good part about rivalries is that they weren't like fabricated to be rivalries. Like, it was just a combined hatred that one team had for another. The whole aura around like the Mets and Yankees playing each other, 1 series in Yankee Stadium, 1 series in the Mets, is just because it's the Subway Series, but that's not like a rivalry. And the second thing to that is, you're never, I would put this down, never's probably the wrong word. At least for a very long time, you're not going to see the rivalries like you saw in the early 2000s. And we've talked about this before. I don't know if it was necessarily on the show or if, like, just in conversation, but you don't have players that, when they get to a certain team, have a general hatred for the other team. You don't have that. That's not a thing anymore. Especially in baseball. Football could be a little different. I don't know. Could be just a couple teams have that. But, like, the Cardinals and Cubs, like, that is not a series like it used to be. Like, if you played for the Cardinals, you didn't want anything to do with, at least during the regular season, didn't want anything to do with anybody that played for the Cubs. When you played for the Yankees, you didn't go out and do your warm-ups and hug a Red Sox player and ask him how he's doing. You hated him. You wanted nothing to do with him. Right? Like, I'm all about guys, being friendly with one another. It's a great marketing thing with young kids. They're trying to market, because that's what they're doing. They're trying to market to the younger fan to keep, for the next generation and the generation after that, to keep coming to the ballpark and buying tickets. But I, as a kid, because I'm like, even today, like our golf scramble, it was fun, but that level of competition in there, like, it's a little bit different now for me. But like, when I played baseball, like, if I'm on one team and Nate's on another team or Derek's on another team, we can be friends outside of the diamond. But the moment that they say play ball and we're in opposing dugouts, I hate you for the next 9, 10, 11 innings. I'm not your friend. I don't want to talk to you. I'm trying to beat your ass in this game. Do not talk to me. They don't have that anymore. So people trying to fabricate or just make up rivalries is not going to it's not going to appeal to the fan that's looking for it, because you can't fake a rivalry. You just, like, there's just something there that they're just never going to get back to.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. It's sad, really, but I do miss those days of baseball when the rivalries meant something, when you could tell watching the games that the Yankees and Red Sox hated each other.
And thankfully, I feel like for the most part, there are a lot of those still in the NFL. Like, there still are teams that cannot stand each other. Like, for example, like, you got the Packers and the Bears can't stand each other. I know Charger fans can't stand Chief fans and vice versa. Chiefs can't stand the Raiders. Like, there's a lot of, in the AFC North, that whole division hates each other. So I guess I can't connect as much to that. I get where you're coming from. Like, guys just don't seem like they have that. I don't want to say they don't have the passion for it like they used to, but like, it definitely has slowed down. But I almost wonder how much that has to do with people just getting moved around more often, I feel like.
Yeah, like maybe free agency has killed.
Yes.
No, but
I also wonder about, like, how much that influences it too, because obviously guys got moved back in the day, but, like, I mean, guys move all the time now.
Right, but you had a guy like, to think of one off the top of my head, in the biggest rivalry, in my opinion, biggest rivalry in sports history is Red Sox-Yankees. You have a guy like Jacoby Ellsbury, right, that was in kind of the heart of that, playing center field for the Red Sox, hated the Yankees, hated him, right? Gets to the offseason, signs with the Yankees. He hated the Red Sox. I just don't think you have that now, because, and like I said, I want to make this very clear. I'm not trying to say guys being friends with dudes from other teams is a bad thing. That's not what I'm saying at all. But there's that killer instinct that's been tweaked just a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I even now, like, with playing slow pitch and stuff, like, there are some teams that I don't necessarily care to play, so I'm not going to be standing there, like, if I'm playing first base and, like, I'm not chalking it up with the dude that just got a hit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just not doing it. Guys get hits, they're standing on first base, they're just sitting there shooting the breeze, they're laughing, they're giggling, they're doing whatever. Guy steals a base and we're playing around and whatnot. Like, yes, that's fun for the game. Like, it makes me chuckle. It's still entertaining. But, man, if some of these people, this younger generation, if you have time and you can find it, go, I don't know where it would be, Shot in the Dark.
I'm sure it's on YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube. Shot in the Dark on YouTube. Go watch early 2000s Yankees versus Red Sox. Right? Like, if you want to know what that was and you have no idea what we're talking about, I spend a little bit of time, go find those games and watch them. Go watch from I say a few years ago. It's probably been longer than that, but the Cardinals and Reds when Brandon Phillips is hitting Yadier Molina on his shin guard and we start an all-out brawl. Like, I'm not saying I want guys to get hurt, but like, there was a moment in time there where like, if I was on the Cardinals and Nate was on the Cubs, like, he's not going to say that the Cardinals are trash and not and not hear about it from me. You know, like, that's that part of the game, at least in baseball, it's gone. And it's probably never coming back, which is fine, but I don't want MLB to try and force down our throats that, like, oh, these rivalries are making a comeback. They're not. They're just not going to they're not coming back. Yes, the matchups are cool, and yes, you can broadcast it and market it on TV, you know, oh, hey, the rivalry, Cardinals and Cubs, but it's just not the same. It's like the feeling of it is just like a regular game. I used to see Cubs fans walking around and I'd be like, Cubs suck. I don't even know them. Don't know them, don't know where they're from, know nothing. But you see a dude wearing a Cubs hat, Cubs suck. And you would just move about your day and like it would be done to you. I couldn't tell you the last time some random person I didn't know shouted something about the Cardinals when I'm wearing a Cardinal shirt or a Cardinal hat. And I couldn't tell you the last time that I saw somebody I didn't know wearing Cubs stuff say that. But also, that was a time, too, where you could say shit like that to people, and people understood that it was just part of the game. As a fan, it was part of what people did. Now you say that, you're liable to get jumped in the parking lot. So, but...
That's the big difference.
Yeah,
with that,
yeah. I mean, I agree, but, you know, I hate when people just try to make stuff up, and it's just a marketing ploy. Like, I know as a fan for the Cardinals that the Cardinals-Cubs series is not what it was 10 years ago. I know that. Don't try to shove it down my throat. Don't convince the 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds that are sitting there watching the game that this is some huge rivalry and they're going to witness something spectacular, because they're just going to witness another baseball game. Nothing crazy is going to happen, right? Wilson Contreras is not going to go out there and punch Dansby Swanson in the face because he said some sideways remark. It's just not happening.
Also, just a comment that I would like to make on both leagues. It is also wild to me that west of Minneapolis and north of Denver in both leagues, they have one team. Like Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Oregon, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska. Like, I understand those aren't big markets, but that's a huge piece that is missing a team in both leagues. Like, it just blows my mind that there's no way we can get a team to kind of fill that huge gap. Like, obviously it's not the most populated area, but still,
that's
like, there's
what
a
it
lot
boils
of
down
people.
to.
That's a lot of people in that area that don't have a team.
Montana Manatees, baby.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, I agree with you, Derek, but I think it boils down to population density, really. And as far as the rivalry stuff, like, I think all of those things that you talked about play a role, Schneids. I think it's, well, and Derek, I think it's, one, it's free agency. Two, I think it's just the fact that these guys are switching teams and it's not what it used to be. They're more friendly, and I think part of that has to do with social media as well.
I don't know. I'm just convinced the rivalries are dead. There's nothing you're gonna do that's gonna convince me that they're coming back. The games are still good. I'm not trying to say that they're not, but man, they were better.
I almost wonder too if that's what's hurting, like, some of the viewership with MLB, like, since those rivalries aren't a thing. Because, not that you, I mean, to be honest, the reason why I go to hockey games is to watch people fight. Like, you know that that's a possibility when you go to a hockey game. MLB, you watch the games, you don't really see, not that I want them to be fighting, but, like, it just doesn't seem like they have that fire like you talk about. You'd go to a Cubs game and, like, there'd be a few scuffles or, you know, guys bad talking trash and stuff like that. It just doesn't seem like it has that anymore. And I wonder if that's what's hurting the viewership for the sport a little bit.
Yeah, it just depends on what statistic you want to look at on why the sport's hurting. It takes too long, or there's not enough action in it. There's, you don't have that killer instinct part of it anymore. Like, there's a whole lot of things. Like,
but I think that could be a very big piece as to why.
I think you're right. I think that does hold some weight as to, especially to the older fan that was around to watch back then, the just like the hard-nosed baseball, the dirty slides, the getting up and pushing and shoving. Like, you want to talk about firing up a crowd. I mean, it was almost like you were watching like a WWE match. You know what I mean? Like, you guys, like, dudes are getting in a fight on the field, players, and you had dudes in the stands getting in fights. Like, it was crazy. But I agree with you. I think that there is a part of that does play into the fact as to why the viewership is down. And that's one issue that you're just there's no way to fix it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that somehow it comes back, but I'm not going to sit here and think that it will. But man, I do miss those games. So we will stay tuned to see what happens with the realignment. If it happens, and maybe we'll see, some more expansion teams in other sports and other leagues. But we're going to get on with NFL stuff tonight. Schneids, you want to go over the ESPN power rankings they just released for our teams?
Yeah, I'll take a crack at it here. So ESPN came out with an article listing the power rankings for all the teams in the NFL. Our three teams, we got Nate's Chargers at 14th, Vikings at 10th, Cowboys at 18th. My little snippet on this, I think I'm trying to keep it short and sweet. I think the Cowboys are maybe right about where they should be. I could be convinced that they should be a little bit lower. I think the Vikings are probably where they should be, coming in with a quote unquote rookie quarterback. The Chargers at 14th, though, I don't know. I'm gonna guess that has to do with a lot of like the injuries to Slater that they have, and also trying to put a lot of prove it, with the quarterback, and also with Harbaugh. Second year coach, right? Second year with them.
Yep.
Yeah, second year coach. I feel pretty good about the numbers, if I'm being honest with you. The Chargers is probably the one that I could be convinced that should be a little higher than what they are, but other than that, I think it's pretty good.
I think, in my opinion, the Chargers and Vikings should be swapped. I think the Chargers are a better team. Obviously, we don't know what the Vikings are going to be with McCarthy. If he plays well, the Vikings will be a top 10 team, but it's a lot to ask for a guy in his first year. We definitely have talent, but it's all going to be predicated on him. So I think that those two should be swapped. Even Dallas seems a little low to me, but I guess we'll find out. Dallas's division is pretty tough this year. So
the only thing I would say for the Chargers, I think the Vikings are hard when you have a quarterback that you don't know what you're going to get necessarily. It's hard to give them a power ranking, because a lot of how well they do is going to depend on how well JJ does, and he's unproven, a rookie. I do think the Cowboys should be higher than 18th. I know we trash them a lot on the podcast, mostly Schneids, but the Chargers, I'm a fan that doesn't get too optimistic about any of my teams, really, but it's going to depend a lot on how the offensive line rallies after Slater went down, because if they can't protect Herbert or block for a run, we're really going to be hurting. But needless to say, we do have some extensions and signings that were given out. Derek, if you want to go over those.
Yep, so we'll start with first one. We'll start in Miami. Matthew Judon gets a 1-year, $6 million deal with the Dolphins. He's kind of become a journeyman on his last few years of his career. So still a really good player. I think it'll be good for them. Xavier Howard signs a deal with the Colts. As of the last time we checked, the contract hasn't been disclosed yet. But he goes from Miami to Indianapolis. And then rookie undrafted free agent Isaiah Bond signs a 3-year, $3 million deal with the Browns. He was recently on trial, but they declined to indict him on a sexual assault charge. So Cleveland will get one of... He was a speedy guy from the draft, right?
Yeah, he was a Texas wide receiver, and he was pretty good in college.
Yep. So that might be a good one for him. We'll just have to wait and see, because obviously he's a little bit behind with training camp and stuff like that. So, and then the last thing we want to talk about is the Bears backup quarterback Tyson Bagent signs 2-year, $10 million extension to continue to be the Bears backup in the future. He had a pretty cool media clip of him talking about kind of his struggles when he was growing up, and kind of opening up about that. So that was a really heartwarming moment. I don't think enough guys talk about that, and it was kind of nice to see a backup quarterback be so thankful just to be able to sign an extension with the team and stay in the same place.
Yeah, I agree with your sentiment about, his emotion and actually opening up about that. I wish more guys were honest about things like that. He said his dad didn't have running water for a lot of his childhood, and that he comes from a very, for lack of a better term, poor town. So he said, I can help a lot of people with this money. So, I mean, it's a lot of money for a backup, I think, but for the kind of person he is, I think it's a great extension for the Bears to sign. Little side note, he is the first Bears quarterback to get an extension since Jay Cutler.
That is wild. And that the fact that he's a backup quarterback.
Right. That shows you how bad the Bears quarterbacks have been.
But to be fair, he played a little bit last year and a little bit of the year before they got Williams. And he's been playing in the preseason this year. He has not been playing bad.
No, I think he's a very serviceable backup quarterback, and obviously the Bears do too if they're willing to sign him to an extension.
Yeah, so, I mean, you don't see that very often where guys get big extensions as backup quarterbacks, but he is, in my opinion, a very serviceable backup quarterback.
The only comment that I want to say is just a branch off of the, not necessarily like him as a player, because I don't know if I've ever even watched him play, to be honest. But like you guys were talking about, like the childhood stuff, the personal things. I just want to put this out there to anybody who's listening. If you're listening to it with like your kids or whatever, like there are people out there that are living proof of no matter what your situation is and the stipulations that you have, you can always achieve greatness. You may have to work harder than most, and it's not your fault. It's the cards you're dealt. But you can always achieve the ultimate goal of what you want in your life. And I think that this guy is living proof of that. I'm not saying there's not other guys. I'm sure there's plenty of them out there that went through struggles growing up and things like that. If anybody can take anything away from this, man, like if you want something, work your ass off to get it. And there's a really good chance that you'll get it.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like Nate said, I wish more guys were open about that, because I think it's a very important inspirational piece that, young kids who might not be having the best environment around them can kind of hear those stories and understand that they have a chance to become something great. And obviously that's what we all want, kids to grow up, have those dreams like we all did. And still do, to become one of those great players in the league, because you just never know. So, getting into some just general news here. First thing we want to start off with is Trey Hendrickson has said that he is not budging with the standoff contract negotiations with the Bengals. He's still holding in. He's at camp. He's just not practicing. So, Cowboys wide receiver Mingo is set the season on IR. He got injured in looks like he'll be staying on the IR to start the season. The interesting one that came out of Cleveland is the Browns named Joe Flacco their week 1 starter. From what I've seen, there was actually a legitimate battle between him and Kenny Pickett, and ultimately it looks like Flacco won the job. They said that they gave Pickett every opportunity to become the week 1 starter, but they felt that Flacco was the better choice. So one that kind of surprised me, well, there was actually 2 moves that surprised me. Texans trade Mechie and a 2026 6-rounder to the Eagles for a tight end and 2026 5th-round pick. I know the Texans were huge on him, and with Tank Dell being out, I really thought he could fill that void. But apparently they think they've got enough depth in their wide receiver room to try to get some picks for him. They got a 5th-rounder for him. I would like to think that he was worth more than that, but now he's reunited with a former college teammate of his, so it'll be kind of interested to see, what happens with that one.
Former college teammates,
right? So that's kind of fun to watch. It'll be interesting to see. It just was very surprising because I know when camp first started that they were really high on him. Houston was, so to see him get dealt was kind of surprising. Next one we'll go to Chargers wide receiver Johnston suffered a concussion after a pretty nasty hit. So see what happens if he comes through concussion protocol, gets through it, and if he'll be available this week. Nate, have you heard any news on him yet?
I have not seen anything, but we might be better off if he is in concussion protocol.
He's not had the best start to his career, but you always hope a guy can turn it around. But the other big one that surprised me, it kind of sucks as a Vikings fan, but Vikings dealt defensive tackle Harrison Phillips and a 2027 7th-round pick to the New York Jets for a 2026 and 2027 6th-round pick. Obviously, the 6th-rounder for both years. I really thought that he would bring more value than that. He's a veteran guy. He just was named a captain last year. Guys loved him. He was a really good piece to have in the locker room. So I was really, really surprised to see that they dealt him. I know we signed some guys in the offseason, so they must be pretty excited to see what they are able to do. But still, one of those that he was a pretty big piece there in Minnesota for a long time. And, you hate to see those pieces get traded away. And to be honest, I don't really think we got a ton back for him. So I don't know if we're going to try to possibly target a wide receiver with those 6th-round picks, because I know that's something that we've been talking about looking to pick up here before the season starts. But again, just it sucks to see those guys get traded away. The Indianapolis Colts named Daniel Jones their starting quarterback week 1. There's already been some talk about if Indianapolis would be interested in trading Anthony Richardson. I've heard that the Steelers would be potentially interested if they were to move on from Anthony Richardson. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think they're just going to throw Daniel Jones out there and see if that'll kind of light that spark for Anthony Richardson to really try to take over that number 1 quarterback spot and run with it. But obviously so far they haven't liked what they've seen from him. So Daniel Jones will be getting the start week 1 in Indianapolis.
This next one we have, the Broncos traded Devon Vele to the Saints for a 4th-round pick and a 7th-round pick, which is interesting when you compare that deal to the Vikings deal and to the Texans deal, because to me, out of the 3 players that we've discussed that got traded, Mechie, Phillips, and Vele, I would say Vele's the least valuable, and he got the highest return as far as a pick goes. So I thought that was interesting when we were making the notes. I noticed that Vele gets a 4th-round pick in return, but Harrison Phillips is only worth a couple of 6th-rounders, and Mechie's only worth a 5th rounder.
Well, Vele's young. He did have a breakout year last year. I actually, when I first saw this, thought that the Saints fleeced the Broncos on that, because I thought he was worth more than a 4th and a 7th. But I also don't understand the move from the Saints' point of view, because they're kind of in rebuild mode, and I feel like trading those picks away to get a receiver when they don't have a bona fide starting quarterback was kind of, I don't know, it just kind of seemed backwards to me.
I agree with you. I think if you're in a situation like the Saints are, you should be hanging on to your picks and trying to acquire more picks, not dealing them away.
Correct. That's where it was kind of surprising to me. But, I mean, I guess we'll see how it works out for him. I just feel like you should solidify a few other positions before you go trading for receivers, and trading away picks when you're in a rebuild. So the last thing we want to talk about is the contract dispute with the Cowboys and Micah Parsons. There was news came out that said Jerry Jones claims to have made an offer to Parsons that would have made him the richest non-quarterback in the league, and it would have been the most guaranteed money to a defensive player in NFL history. But apparently Parsons' agent doesn't necessarily agree with that, and he's kind of pushing back on that. So I don't really know. I don't know what's going to happen with that situation. I don't see how Dallas keeps him, which sucks, because out of the 3 players that they signed, I think they should have probably kept him and CD, but he's probably not going to be able to be re-signed, and if he does, it's going to be on a team-friendly deal, and I just don't think that Parsons is going to want to do that. So,
well, the article that I read from, I believe it was CBS, said that basically the deal between Parsons and Jerry Jones was settled. They had a conversation. Everything was good. Jerry Jones was like, hey, I don't want any funny business, so I'm going to send this over to your agent. I'm going to let him double check everything, but we're good. And then the agent said something along the lines of, you can shove this up your ass. This really reminds me of the Freddie Freeman thing, if I'm being honest with you. The agent is out here, like, making moves. I know that there's, like, some rumors swirling around that basically Micah Parsons was like, yeah, dude, we're good, everything's fine, like, send this over to my agent, we're good, and then, like, did the whole switcheroo, called the agent or whatever, and was like, yeah, tell them get bent, like, I'm not signing that, you know. If there's anybody that has the money to sign him that's, you know, okay with paying the fine for being over the cap, Jerry Jones is probably that guy. I don't know, but there's also a claim out there that if he doesn't sign an extension, that Jerry Jones is just going to franchise tag him for the next 2 years. So, you know, at this rate, if you're Micah Parsons, it sucks. He's totally worth the money. But if you want to play football and you don't want to waste 3 years of your career, you know, it's what do you do at that point? I hope he gets his money. I also hope that if he gets traded, he never steps foot in Dallas again. Not because I don't want him here, but because it's the people who have left have not said kind things about Dallas. So I just can't believe that they would franchise tag him for 2 years, and I can't believe that Micah would just sit out for 3 seasons, basically.
if they do franchise tag him, that would be that would be
that's the ultimate
stereotypical Dallas. I mean, like, honestly, they would be paying him so much money because the franchise tag goes off of like the top earners from that position. So, and then if you franchise him back-to-back years, then his earnings go up if you do it back-to-back years. So, yeah, over the long term, they could be paying him more or just as much money on the franchise tags if they would just sign him to a contract.
I mean, I get that, but if he's not willing to play, if Micah's not willing to play ball, which I'm not saying that he should, I'm not trying to make that that, I'm not trying to put this on, and this is Micah's fault, but if Parsons doesn't want to play ball and Jerry Jones sees that, he might franchise tag him because he knows he wants the deal. He's already said he wants out of Dallas, which I don't know if that's necessarily true, but that's the ultimate checkmate. Oh, you want out of Dallas? You want to be traded? Nah, I'll just franchise tag you the next 2 years, and you can sit out for 3 years of your career.
He's still going to make a money. $25 to $40 million in that year?
He's making $20 million right now, sitting there.
Right. So then if they do that and he's not playing, and then they franchise tag him again the next year, it doubles.
I understand that. Like, if they got a trade that was an absolute haul, obviously I would do that. Or if they somehow, got together and figured out a deal, obviously I want the outcome to somehow benefit the team too. But we're talking about the most egotistical owner of probably sports, really. Just overall, do you really think that it would shock you at all if they couldn't find a deal for him that was gonna, bring back a lot, or they couldn't find an extension? Would it shock you at all that Jerry Jones was like, fine, I'll pay you, and you can just sit for 3 years? It doesn't surprise me none.
I think, if you want me to be honest, I think at this point, Jerry's playing chess and Mike is playing checkers. Because I mean, you're either, okay, say, Derek, your point about the franchise tag. Yes, you're correct. But if he signs an extension and he's not going to agree to anything less than probably, $35 million a year would be my guess. What did TJ get? His was almost $40 million a year, wasn't it?
I think it was over 40, just
right.
over 40.
Right. So the tag, it's going to double next year, yes, but you're also not paying him guaranteed money for the next 6 years, which is probably what Jerry's problem is. So instead of, if you don't want to play ball, Micah, and you're playing fuck games or whatever's going on with the contract and your agent, whoever's dropping the ball there, maybe the agent's fucking him, who knows? But the thing about it is Jerry has the ability to hold him in Dallas for 3 more years. And if Micah wants to sit out, it could ruin his career. He's going to eventually have to come play. One way or another, what Jerry's doing is going to get something done.
Yeah, I don't understand it. It's an ego battle, like you said, Schneid's. It's an ego thing with Jerry. It always is.
Well, they've been playing things on
the linebacker, projected value for 2025 franchise tag is going to be anywhere from $25 to $30 million if he was to get franchise tagged. And then if you were to franchise tag on top of that, I don't know what the percentage is, but you get a certain percentage on top of the next year's salary cap or the next year's franchise tag amount. So,
but
realistically,
what position is he going to get tagged under?
A linebacker, I would assume. That's what he's on the depth chart as.
That'll be interesting because I remember it was probably close to 10 years ago now when Jimmy Graham did it with the Saints. It went to arbitration because he was trying to say that he should get paid like a receiver and not a tight end because of how many sets and how many plays he runs out wide.
He would want to be, according to these numbers, he would want to be tagged as a linebacker because they're going to make more money than a defensive end. Which is crazy because a defensive tackle makes almost as much as a linebacker. But yeah, according to this, he's going to want to be tagged as a linebacker, which obviously he's going to be able to be tagged as a linebacker.
But if you've been a Cowboys fan though for a while, Jerry Jones did the same thing with Emmitt Smith. The egotistical, not wanting to pay him.
I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to say is, I don't like when teams and managers do this whole it's my way or the highway, and if you don't agree to it, I'm going to try to screw you type of thing, which I think is what's going to end up happening with this deal.
But Derek, my question for you is this: if you're Jerry Jones at this point, and say you're him, what do you do to fix this? Because you can't give him the extension because of the cap. So what is your play to get him to play ball?
My play, would have been let Dak Prescott walk sign him and CD.
Nope. Today.
Oh, I understand. That would have been that is the solution to the problem that they should have done years ago. Today, you have that sit down conversation with them and be like, look, we want you to be here, which this would never happen, by the way, because Jerry Jones, I don't believe, could have this conversation. We want you to be here, but we also understand that we're under a salary cap issue. If you aren't okay with taking a team-friendly deal to get us to that point, not saying that you should, we want to do you right by trying to move you to a place that you would want to go to. And try to get, because you're going to get a haul for him if you trade him. I mean,
I'm not sure you do.
You should get a haul.
I'm not sure you do at this point with how far along this has gone. Because teams are going to realize that Dallas is desperate to get something for him. And I think that diminishes the value heavily.
But are they? He's
Well,
threatening to franchise tag him for the next 2 years. It doesn't sound like Jerry's very frantic about getting something done.
Well, I'm saying you're going to pay a player to not be on your roster, essentially, or you're going to trade him. Well, obviously, like, if those were the two options, you would trade him.
Right, but when you add into the fact that, and again, this is speculation. This has come from Jerry Jones's mouth, not Parsons's mouth, and I don't necessarily know if I believe all of it. But like, if you had a deal in place where the GM and the player were both in agreement that they were like, yep, this is what we want to do, and they send it over to the agent, and the agent's the one telling them to shove it, I don't know if that's necessarily like at face value. That's not Jerry playing hardball. But if after that, though, I am 100% I'm playing hardball. Me and Micah are going to have another conversation and be like, look, dude, we agreed on a contract. If it fit both the needs that we were looking for, your agent's the one that told me that I can shove it where the sun don't shine. So guess what, pal? Either talk to your agent or I'm just going to franchise tag you the next 2 years and you can sit your happy ass on the bench and wait.
There was also a report that came out that said that, and Michael was talking on a podcast or something, that whenever last year when these contract talks should have been going on, they weren't. And Micah was kind of talking to him like, hey, I don't want to break the bank on the team. Just, can you please try to get me signed basically before my last year of the deal? Apparently him and Jerry Jones were talking about numbers, thought they were on the same page on like an annual and guaranteed basis. Basically said like, hey, this is kind of where we feel like we're at. And they kind of agreed. And then apparently Jerry Jones turned his back on him and said, like, I never talked about that. Those numbers are nowhere close to what I wanted to pay him and all that stuff. So both sides seem like they're talking like the other person's the bad guy. Again, I don't like when that gets messy like that. I don't understand why we can't just, like, if we both don't want something to happen, just move on from each other. Like, it's that simple. Dallas should have signed him before it got to the last year of his contract. I don't know how many times we have to keep having this conversation until somebody figures it out in Dallas. But stop letting these guys get to the last year of their deals, and you won't have this problem.
Yeah, that's fair. But if you don't have the money and he's demanding a certain amount of money, that's kind of the issue too.
So then send him somewhere and get a haul for him. People are going to pay a premium for a pass rusher. That's the only benefit for his situation.
I get it.
Quarterbacks and pass rushers, they're going to... It doesn't matter if he sits this entire year and goes into free agency next year. They're going to pay him a ton of money no matter where he goes. They're going to give up a bunch of picks no matter where he goes if they trade him. So I just don't understand. Dallas, you can't be mad at anybody because you didn't get it done beforehand. And Parsons, if your agent really did what the reports are saying, then you can't be mad at Jerry Jones because your agent's the one that screwed him. And also, on the other hand, if you were the one that went behind Jerry's back and told your agent to say that, then you're just as much of a problem as Jerry is.
This is the thing, and I'm not saying that you have a wrong mindset of this, and I'm not saying that I would expect a different view of this from you, but you're looking at it from the player's standpoint. That's the thing. Like, yes, I think you could get a haul for Micah, but if there's a way that you could keep him there and make him happy, you would get way more value out of that. But I also think that Jerry, like I've said before, is egotistical enough to pay this dude 30, 35, 40 million to sit his happy ass on the bench and waste 3 years of his career and just watch time go by. I really do. Huh?
Or don't, or just to say I told you so, or don't cross me.
Right, like I could see that happening, and especially if the story that we're talking about here is true, especially if that is true. Why, like, if I'm Jerry and I want him here, I don't want him to go anywhere else. Well, sure, I'll just franchise tag you. You're either going to play, and then we can have legitimate talks about a contract, or you cannot, and you're just going to waste your prime years sitting on the bench for the Dallas Cowboys, hanging out. You'll get paid, but at the end of it, nobody's going to know who you are, and it'll be a wasted career like what Nate said.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens either way. Now that we've all kind of voiced our opinions on that. Let's move to
Derek,
some scores.
Let's see if you could do the washed up version of the fastest 5 minutes by Chris Berman.
That's not going to happen. You can't put me on the spot like that. Anyway.
Sounds like we just did, pal.
So we got the Titans defeated the Atlanta Falcons 23-20. Seattle defeated Kansas City 33-16. The notable player we have on here is Drew Lock. He went 10 for 12, 129 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So pretty strong outing from him. I think he's still going to be number 3 on the depth chart, maybe number 2 if he can beat out Milton, but we'll see. You got the Rams beat the Chargers 23-22. Stetson Bennett played the whole game, went 28 for 40, 324 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. Obviously, some crazy numbers there for a backup quarterback, but when you play the whole game, I guess that tends to happen. So he looked really good. I don't want to say that the Rams kind of have their bridge guy after Stafford retires, but he's definitely made some progression from last year to this year. Maybe he can be that guy for a few years in Los Angeles. So the Miami Dolphins defeated the Detroit Lions 24-17. The Packers beat the Colts 23-19. New England beat my Minnesota Vikings 20-12. We have New England's running back Henderson ran the ball 4 times for 20 yards and a touchdown, so he records another touchdown on his preseason tallies. He's looked pretty strong so far this year in preseason. I think he's going to give some thought to New England on who's going to be the number 1 guy there in for the Patriots, but we'll see what happens. And the other one I wanted to talk about is Max Brosmer. He's listed as the number 3 quarterback on Minnesota's depth chart. Undrafted guy out of Minnesota, University of Minnesota. He was a gopher there. 15 for 27, 156 yards, and 1 interception. The stats don't show it, but I think Minnesota might have found a diamond in a rough with this one. A lot of guys are comparing him to, possibly being like a Brock Purdy-esque, finding that diamond in the rough that could eventually play later down the line if something doesn't happen with doesn't work out with McCarthy. He has looked really, really good in the preseason. I would like to see them keep him around. I like Sam Howell, but I think that this kid could really turn out to be something great if what his preseason, stats and abilities have shown us. So Cleveland defeated the Eagles 22-13. Gabriel got his start and went 13 for 18, 143 yards, an interception and a fumble lost. Not a great showing from him, and there was some controversy after the game, apparently on some remarks that he made. But not a great showing for him. So the Houston Texans beat the Carolina Panthers 20-3. The 49ers beat the Raiders 22-19. Genty the rookie running back for the Raiders, had 7 carries, 33 yards, and a touchdown. The Baltimore Ravens beat the Dallas Cowboys 31-13. The Giants defeated the Jets 31-12. Jackson Dart had a really, really strong outing. He continues to look like a polished, probably one of the most polished coming out of college from that draft class. 14 for 16, 137 yards and a touchdown. On the opposite side of the field, Justin Fields did not have a good day. Might be one of the worst outings I've seen from a starting quarterback in the preseason. 1 for 5 for 4 yards. He had no velocity on the ball. He looked very nervous. He did not look comfortable at all compared to the first couple snaps he took in the preseason. So I don't know. Not a strong look there. I know that the Jets were pretty disappointed with that, and Jets fans are kind of nervous now going into the season. So we'll see if he gets any playing time in their third game, and if he can turn that around. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers 17-10. Denver Broncos beat the Arizona Cardinals 27-7. Jacksonville and New Orleans tied 17 apiece. Chicago blanked the Buffalo Bills 38-0. Caleb Williams played, got the start, went 6 for 10, 107 yards and a touchdown. Looked really good, and it pains me to say that as a Vikings fan, but he looked really strong in this new offensive scheme. And then his backup, Tyson Bagent, went 13 for 22, 196 yards and a touchdown. So really strong outings from both quarterbacks. Obviously, Williams is going to get the nod, but not a bad game put together by Bagent either. So in the last game, Cincinnati defeated the Washington Commanders 31-17. Cincinnati's Browning went 16 for 25, 159 yards and 2 touchdowns. Not surprising. He had a couple games last year and the year before that he played really, really well when he had to fill in for Burrow. So not surprised there. And then Cincinnati's receiver Tinsley had 5 receptions, 73 yards and 2 touchdowns. So pretty strong outing from him as well.
Not bad. It was longer than 5 minutes, but that was not bad.
I think it was my my Minnesota detour that probably screwed my time. So
you talked a little bit, but that's okay. We are to our final edition of the position previews on the Washed Up podcast. So I mentioned in our open that we will have the prediction podcast for the 2025 NFL season next week. We still will have that. So this will be the final edition of the position previews. Tonight we're going to cover linebackers, edge, and cornerback and safeties. Derek, do you want to get started with linebackers?
Yeah, so I will start with the Philadelphia Eagles. So they got Zach Bond, Smith Jr., Nakobe Dean, Trotter, and Campbell. Trotter and Campbell are both rookies. Just a really strong linebacker core. Zach Bond, loved that he got paid because he had a monster season last year. He's one of those stories where the league kind of wrote him off, and he signed a free agent deal with Philadelphia. Just kind of as like one of those deals that you take to try to resurrect your career, and he did just that. Had a monster season last year, was the heartbeat of that defense, and he got paid to stay in Philadelphia, which is one of those feel-good stories. And he definitely earned the money that he got. So, and then Nakobe Dean was a former Georgia Bulldog. Just a solid piece in there with him. A really, really well-rounded group, and it'll be interesting to see how they incorporate the 2 rookies in that group as well.
Yeah, Nolan Smith Jr. and Dean, both former Bulldogs, and then the legacy Jeremiah Trotter Jr. That they picked up in the draft. I am excited to watch that linebacker group. If I had an NFC team, it would probably be Philly. I just love what they do and how they play football. That'll take us to Detroit, where they have Anzalone, Jack Campbell, and Barnes. By ratings, Campbell was one of the best linebackers in the National Football League last year. So that puts the group in Detroit at a pretty high ranking as well.
Yeah, so that will move us to Minnesota. So we have listed on ours right now, we have Jonathan Greenard, Ivan Pace Jr., and Blake Cashman. So Blake Cashman and Greenard were picked up last year in some trades and some free agency. Two really, really good pickups. I really like Greenard off the edge. He can really wreak some havoc. Him and Van Ginkel, that are just, them two combined, it just makes me really, really excited when you put them with Brian Flores' schemes. He just brings havoc from everywhere. Ivan Pace Jr. was an undrafted guy out of Cincinnati. Huge diamond in the rough from 2 years ago. Dude's been a stud. I think his rookie year, he actually was one of the highest rated linebackers in the league. So it's always good when you can find a guy like that on an undrafted free agent or undrafted rookie deal. So, yeah, that group is a solid group. I think one of the better ones in the league, as long as everybody stays healthy.
That'll take us to my Chargers, where they have Daniel Henley, Denzel Perryman, and Junior Colson. Henley was pretty good last year. Perryman, we had him before. He kind of bounced around. We got him back. And then Colson's a Michigan product that Harbaugh targeted in the draft with the GM. I think we'll have a really good linebacker group. I believe it'll be not as good as our secondary, but better than our defensive line. I hope Colson gets a lot of run. I'd like to see him play. He knows the scheme because Minter was the defensive coordinator at Michigan when he was there. So I think he'll fit really well in the scheme. So I hope he gets some run.
Brings me to the Dallas Cowboys here. We got Leofau, Sanborn, Murray Jr. for the linebacker crew. I don't know necessarily a whole lot about these guys. I mean, in reality, you would have Micah Parsons probably. I know we have him on the next category, but he's a linebacker. You would normally have him kind of leading the charge. Just hoping for good things and not a mediocre season.
The only thing I'll mention about your linebacker Schneids is that we had Murray Jr. He was pretty good for us. I want to say maybe he was out of Georgia too. He played well for us. We just moved on because they didn't want to pay him.
Yeah, so that'll bring us to the edge rushers. We'll start with Pittsburgh. Arguably the top, if not definitely top two in the league, TJ Watt and Jack Sawyer. TJ Watt obviously doesn't need any explanation. Dude's a stud. He's a annual defensive MVP candidate, unless he's hurt, obviously. But even when he's hurt, sometimes he's in the conversation because he's played so well while he was healthy. And the other one is rookie Jack Sawyer. He's kind of he was one that I was excited for. He's from Ohio State, which doesn't ever come out of my mouth. Can't stand Ohio State, but he was one that has stuck around on the team. There was he could have graduated, but he ended up sticking with them, and he became a national champion. I think he could really fit into that Pittsburgh defense. So excited to see what he can do at the next level. And obviously he's going to have a great mentor in TJ Watt. So definitely one of those guys that you would love to learn from. He's got him right there in the same building with him.
Ohio State's known for churning out edges.
Edges and wide receivers.
Yep.
And that brings me to my guy, who we just talked about a little bit. Micah Parsons for the edge. Dude's obviously a stud, but dude wants his money, and he hasn't gotten it. So there's a chance that he doesn't play at all. I hope that that's not the case. Love watching him play. He almost makes the game look easy. He reminds me and I haven't said this, but he reminds me a lot of DeMarcus Ware with the way that he plays the game, the speed that he has to come off the edge. Love watching the dude play, but he may not be there. So
that will bring us to the Raiders, who the only really notable pass rusher that I have down here is Max Crosby, who also, if healthy, is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He can wreck an offensive line like the best of them in the NFL, and he's got a really cool story too. If you don't know about Max Crosby, look him up. He's got a cool foundation that he supports and runs. Totally good dude, but he's also one of the best pass rushers in the NFL.
Yeah, so that'll take us to the LA Rams. The only one we have listed on here is Jared Verse. Was a rookie last year, just absolute stud. Does nothing but wreak havoc, and grab face masks in the end zone that don't get called. But we're not going to talk about that game. But yeah, very solid edge rusher. I expect big things out of this group this year. I think I made that known on the last podcast. And it's definitely going to be front ran by Jared Verse, who I really think could be in the defensive MVP conversation.
Oh my. Another hot take. Derek,
I do. I think.
Are you a Rams fan?
No, dude, he's a stud. I did not want to play against him. We had to play against him twice last year. No, I am not. But I gotta give props
horns,
for
brother.
Put them on, dude. I already got them. They're Vikings horns, but
nah, you need the blue and gold.
Nope.
All right, fellas. That'll take us to the Chargers. They have Khalil Mack still, Bud Dupree, and Tui Tuipulotu. They really have. It's odd in LA with the Chargers because the edges they're really good. They're like top of the NFL type players. They can get after the passer, but then the nose tackle and the DTs, they can't hold up the line. So teams just run the ball all over us. I hope Mack gets a Super Bowl this year. That'd be amazing. Bud Dupree's a good edge. And Tui, I'd like to see him break out. He's been very serviceable. He's played here and there sparingly. But I like the group for edge for the Chargers.
Yeah, so that leaves us to Minnesota. So a guy that I've already kind of talked about was Andrew Van Ginkel, and then Dallas Turner. There is just so much talent on our front line, between our rushing linebackers and our edge rushers as well. Van Ginkel was a free agent signing last year, had a monster season. Dallas Turner was a rookie last year that we took in the first round. Didn't get a ton of playing time, but when he did, he did some great things. There's just a lot of talent on our line right now and our edge rusher linebackers. But I'm excited to see how they incorporate him. I've heard some stories that they're getting him looks at different positions and maybe playing him from a stand-up guy and also dropping him into coverage because he's just an athlete. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, there's some depth there, so that's never a bad thing to have.
Are any of them going to win the MVP?
Hey, you say that, but like halfway through the season, Andrew Van Ginkel was in the conversation.
I'm asking you.
How many players can win the Defensive Player of the Year?
One.
Okay.
I want to know. Do you think that we're talking about MVP race here? I'm just curious.
MVP? No. Defensive MVP? No.
Yeah, well, somebody's a Rams fan.
All right, fellas. This will take us into the secondary. I will start with what I think is, well, these first three really, I think, are the best three in the NFL. But the one that I would say is the best is Baltimore. They have Nate Wiggins, Jaire Alexander, Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton, and Malachi Starks. This group is just, they all could be all pros. It's a very good secondary. Baltimore's always been known for having a good secondary. Kyle Hamilton's one of the best safeties in the NFL. I don't like the Ravens, but this group makes you excited to watch them play.
Yeah, and I think this next group can give them a run for their money. You got Denver, you got Pat Surtain, Talona Hufanga, Riley Moss, Jahdae Barron. He's a rookie out of Texas. I'm telling you what, one of the teams in the league that I think did the most in the offseason to improve their team is the Denver Broncos. I think I loved a lot of the pickups that they had. I think they really, really, really improved their defense. And one of them was the Hufanga signing, playing safety for them now. I think that they are one of the most improved, if not the most improved team from the offseason with just the amount of moves and quality players that they signed. One of them we didn't even talk about in the linebacker group was Grenard from, not Grenard. Oh, shoot.
You talking about
from the 49ers
yeah,
that got
I know
hurt in
you're
the Super
talking
Bowl.
about.
Greenwood?
No, that's not right. It's something like that.
They picked him up as well. We didn't list him in our linebacker group, but a lot of just solid signings for Denver. I think, no offense, Nate, but I think they're going to give you guys a run for the money in that division. I would not be surprised if they finish second. Just they really, really improved their team this offseason.
Greenlaw,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Denver's a slouch by any means. In my, best case scenario, the Raiders beat the Chiefs, Denver beats them twice, and the Chargers beat them at least once. I would be happy with, I want my Chargers to win, but I would be happy with anybody other than the Chiefs winning that division. I would say the next best secondary in the NFL is probably Houston. They have Derek Stingley Jr., Bullock, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Kamari Lassiter, and Jalen Petre. This is a really good group. They were really good last year. They turn the ball over. They play hard. They're fairly young for the most part. Stingley Jr. Eventually is going to probably compete for that coveted Defensive Player of the Year award that Derek's trying to give to the Rams players. But I do believe in this Houston Texans secondary.
Yeah, and the notable thing to mention on the Houston is Gardner Johnson is out for the year. So I think he tore his ACL or something like that last week. So they will be without him, but still, like you said, a very strong group that has some depth there. So next team we want to get to is the New England Patriots. One of those that could fly under the radar, honestly, with some of these names. Carlton Davis, Kyle Duggar, Jabril Peppers, Christian Gonzalez, and Marcus Jones. Gonzalez was a stud. He's been a stud ever since he came into the league. Young guy, really the solidified piece in that defense. And Jabril Peppers has been a pretty solid piece for them as well. Carlton Davis spent some time around the league. Pretty solid corner, but really that defense is going to be held by Christian Gonzalez and Jabril Peppers.
Yeah, I agree. I like Christian Gonzalez. I liked him when he came out of Oregon in the draft. I also liked Peppers. Peppers got drafted by the Browns, didn't he? I want to say it was the Browns, and they let him go for next to nothing.
He was such a cool player to watch in college, too.
Yeah, he played both sides of the ball.
Swiss Army knife.
Yeah. He returns kicks. Well, he did return kicks for him. I don't know if he will this year, but
right.
Anyways, that'll take us into L.A. for my Chargers. They signed Dante Jackson. They still have Derwin James Jr., one of the best safeties in the NFL. Alohi Gilman, Hart, and Still, 2 second-year players that they got in the draft last year that played really well. I'd like to still see them take a step forward. For a long time, the Chargers defense has been based on if they can stay healthy or not. James has some issues with that. So hopefully they can keep the corners in the secondary healthy, and I think they'll help the Chargers win some games.
Well, that brings me to my Cowboys. We got Bland, Wilson, Hooker, and Diggs. I don't really have to talk about Diggs too much. Dude's an absolute stud. Plays the position really well. Plays it sometimes a little reckless, which, obviously it's a 50-50 shot, but I love having Diggs. You have guys like Bland. Didn't play a whole lot of games last year. Played 7 for them. So hoping for a full season from him because 2023 he had 9 interceptions, 53 solo tackles. So hoping for big things from him. Then you have Donovan Wilson, safety, 30 years old, puts up fairly decent numbers for them. So I'm hoping that continues. I mean, his numbers seem to be hovering anywhere between mid-50s to mid-70s in tackles, which I like. So we'll see what happens with him. And then Malik Hooker is kind of like the same deal, pretty good seasons out of him. Nothing that's, blurts out, but it's not a terrible room, probably fairly average room, maybe a little bit above average outside of Diggs. So, I mean, hopefully those stats continue and that secondary stays strong for them for the season.
All right, that brings us to Minnesota. To be quite frank, this group I don't have a lot of faith in this group. I think we're going to end up probably in the lower half of the league with some of these names. But we'll start off with Isaiah Rodgers, Josh Metellus, Harrison Smith, Byron Murphy Jr., and Mekhi Blackman. A lot of youth, but then also there's some older guys in here as well. Harrison Smith's been around forever. I think he's going to probably play this season and be done, maybe one more year, but been a safety there for a long time, done a lot of great things with Minnesota. Love watching him play. Byron Murphy was a free agent and ended up re-signing with the Vikings after testing free agency. I was really excited to get him back. He had a really good year last year. I was really, really hyped when we traded for him from the Cardinals. So I'm glad he's back. Josh Metellus has kind of been that Swiss Army knife on our defense. I'm pretty sure there was a statistic that came out last year. He played every position on the field at like defensive position besides nose tackle. So it looks like Flores likes to implement him in different packages and getting him more involved. He's a crazy athlete. But really the other two corners, or the other corner opposite of Byron Murphy, Blackman and Rodgers, I know they've been pretty high on both of these guys coming out of the training camp. I just don't know what to expect. It's nice that Flores can kind of hide the cornerback deficiency that we have with the amount of pressure that he can bring from everywhere else. Corner's kind of always been one of those positions Minnesota's never been able to get right. But when you have all these pass rushers and linebackers who can get after the quarterback, it kind of helps, hide those deficiencies when quarterbacks only have 2 to 3 seconds to throw the football before they're getting sacked. So a group that I don't know how to feel on. Like I think they're going to be middle of the road, if not below average.
All right, guys. Well, it's been, 6 weeks of position preview, and we finally wrapped it up. We will, like I said, we'll have the predictions next week. So, guys, make sure you're writing down who you got for divisions and championship games and Super Bowls and all that good stuff. I know it's been a heavily asked about topic among our listeners. So we will bring that to you next week. Stay tuned for that.
I'm excited, man. I think that's going to be probably the most fun show. Like, it's just going to be a blast. I think there's going to be a ton of hot takes and could be a little bit of banter. So it definitely is going to be a good one.
Also,
there's going to be some talking going on, I'm sure.
Also, guys, if you want, leave us a comment with, if you don't want to do the whole thing, leave us a comment on your division winners, your Super Bowl winner, your, however you want to do it, but leave a comment about with your guys' answers to that as well. And maybe if there's a couple crazy ones, maybe we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Schneids. We would move on into NHL, but again, there's no Blues news. So that will bring us to the trivia part of the show. And I will remind you guys again, we don't get many votes on the poll. So if you do listen on Spotify, check out the poll and vote for whoever you think the loser is of our washed up trivia segment of the show.
Who got it last week?
Let me pull it up here.
If it's Nate again, this is 3 weeks in a row.
It wouldn't surprise me. The listeners just don't like me. I earned the one was pretty bad, but so Schneids, you were the most washed up with 2 votes last week. And then I had the 2 weeks prior to that with the Chargers receivers and the Braves starting 9. The Braves starting 9 is the one that I was like, man, I didn't think I did that bad, but the listeners thought I did, so.
Hey, to be washed up and trying to remember all the Cardinals players that have hit 30 home runs since 2000 or whatever, it's not an easy thing to do.
Well, you're going to like tonight's trivia question for you then.
Yay.
All right, guys, washed up trivia. Here we go. Name the St. Louis Cardinals with 200 strikeouts in a season since 2005. These are pitchers, just to clarify. There are 5 of them. I'm not including duplicates. Since 2005.
Let's think of this here. Chris Carpenter?
Yep. He had 213 in 2005.
Adam Wainwright?
Wainwright did it 3 times. He had 219, 213, and 212 in 2009, 2010, and 2013.
Okay, well, those are the 2 easy ones.
Yep.
Trying to think. 2005. Okay. We're gonna throw some names out here. Weaver.
No Weaver.
Okay. Hey, he had a couple really good years for the Cardinals.
Yep.
So I thought
they've had some pitchers that were good. I was surprised that there weren't more people on this list, really.
I'm not. The Cardinals don't usually don't sign or draft guys that are high strikeout because they've always been, based on the fundamentals. So they want guys that get ground balls. So that doesn't necessarily surprise me. That's what makes the list hard, is because they have good pitchers. They're just not usually strikeout guys. So let's think here. Kyle Loesch.
No.
I'm going to be washed up this week, boys, because this is tough. Since 2005, was Mulder on the team?
I'm not sure if he was, but he's not on this list. Your last 3 were more recent.
Did Waka do it?
No Waka.
Think more recent?
I'll say the last 3, it's from 2017 till now.
Michaelis hasn't done it. 2017, a 200 strikeout guy. I'm trying to think of who the aces were for
These guys.
Jack Flaherty.
Jack Flaherty has the most strikeouts in a season since 2005 with 231 in 2019.
Okay, so we got 3 of the 5. Arguably got the 2 easiest ones. Maybe
I would say
the
these
easiest.
other 2, you're probably the 3 easiest. These other 2 guys, I would have considered them the ace of that year.
I'm trying to think of who that could be.
One of these guys, I'm pretty sure you hated. He had a very up and down type career with the Cardinals. He was similar to Lance Lynn, where he'd go out and he'd throw you 7 shutout innings with 10 Ks, or he'd give up 5 home runs in the first inning.
Well, that's quite a few of them, bud. We're living in the age of Miles Michaelis right now. Oh man,
he's no longer playing, the one I'm talking about.
Okay. Oh man. Okay. I guess give me some better hints because I'm blanking.
I believe this guy switched his number to the same number of a player that passed away for the Cardinals. That's a pretty good hint.
Oh, Carlos Martinez?
Yep. Carlos had 217 in 2017.
Was that the guy you were talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know if you hated him, but I
didn't necessarily hate him. He was a guy that had a lot of potential, man, but he had some off-field stuff that wasn't great and just couldn't keep his head on the right path. He had the potential to be an ace for them for a long time.
And didn't he wear number 40 something and then he switched to 18 after Tavares passed away?
I think right? So, yeah. That sounds right.
Baseball Reference only, hold on, let's see. Yeah, 62, 44, and 18 were his numbers.
Yeah, he switched. Man, I can't think of the last one.
Your last guy is still on the team.
Still on the team?
Yep. He did it last year.
Sonny Gray?
Yep. He had 203 last year.
Seeing Sonny Gray, like, I'm not thinking about him because he's more of a contact guy this late in his career. Yeah,
I mean, he barely got it with 203, but so the 5 Cardinals with 200 strikeouts in the season since 05, it's Carpenter, Wainwright, Martinez, Flaherty, and Sonny Gray.
Man, I tell you what, just a little side note. I was just talking about this with my wife the other day. I loved watching Chris Carpenter pitch. That guy is the reason when I played baseball, I wanted to pitch. He was an absolute dog on the mound. Loved watching that dude pitch.
That's old school pitcher type stuff, too. It's not this stuff now where we're just going to rear back and see how fast we can throw it. That's why I love the Braves pitchers of the 90s, because they actually pitched and there was head games going on and they located their stuff, and it's kind of sad in a way the way the game has gone in some aspects, but all for excitement, money, and fans. Derek, are you ready?
I'm ready.
I said, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Oh, I love the excitement. Vikings single season of 13 sacks or more since 1997. There's 4 guys.
Okay. Daniel Hunter.
Yep. He did it 3 times. 18, 19, and 23. I didn't realize how many sacks he was racking up.
Yeah, dude. That's what I was saying last week when we were going over position previews. Like, I kind of forgot about him, but he had some solid seasons there for a while.
I mean, that's 3 out of, 5 or 6 seasons where he was over 14 sacks.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a stud. Jared Allen?
Jared Allen had 3 in this time period. 14 and a half in 08, 14 and a half in 09, and 22 in 11.
Oh my God, what was his name? Griffith or Griffin?
Griffin, he had 13 sacks in 2017.
Oh boy, what year am I missing?
97.
Oh Jesus.
Pretty sure this guy's a Hall of Famer though. I'm gonna double check that.
Have you noticed that like 2010 on, like I'm pretty good at it, but when we get back there, like where I didn't follow him, I'm just awful.
What do you want me to? I gotta give you some good stuff. I gotta make you think. I am expanding your knowledge of your team. He got inducted in the Hall of Fame in 2010. 137 and a half career sacks. He led the team in sacks for 8 consecutive seasons. And when he retired, he was NFL's all-time leader in sacks.
Man. Did he play for any other teams other than Minnesota?
It says here... he finished his career with the Seahawks. It's probably going to help you, but he wore number... Wait. That's not what I was trying to look at. He wore number 93 for the Vikings. And he played for them from 90 till 2000.
What's his last name start with?
He was an All-Pro for 6 consecutive years with the Vikings. He was second in Defensive Player of the Year in 1998. His last name starts with an R.
Randall?
Yep, John Randall.
Yep. Wow, I'm actually kind of surprised I got that one. When you said 93, I'm like, I might have an idea, but man, those that far back are tough, man.
Yeah, I'm expanding your knowledge here. I'm taking you back into the 90s when I was a kid.
You learn something new every day. You act like I didn't.
I mean, you were a baby. You were still in diapers in the 90s.
You say that like you weren't.
I was going to say.
Dude, I was in 2nd grade at the end of the 90s. You guys probably hadn't even started school.
Anyway, actually, thank you. I was in kindergarten.
Well, there you go.
So, thank you. All right, Nate. Are you ready?
Oh, you actually come up with one?
Yeah, dude, I got it.
I hate when you ask me them because I'm so much more knowledgeable on baseball.
Well, yeah, that's what Schneid's is for. I'm the football guy. So, all right. Chargers. You ready?
Sure.
Oh, I'm so glad you have so much enthusiasm.
Yes,
blah, blah, blah.
I'm ready. Give it to me.
Anyway, since 2000, the Chargers have won 5 AFC division titles. Can you name the years?
No.
Without just going year to year.
You're talking about the AFC West, or they won the AFC champ? They haven't won the AFC championship that many times.
No, they're like AFC West, AFC division titles.
Oh, okay. That'll be a little bit easier.
Some of these should be very obvious because they were very good for this time.
I believe... I know they did in 2006. Yeah?
Yeah.
2007?
Yep.
2008?
No.
Okay, did they do it in 2005?
No.
Okay. So the other time they would have won it would have been the year that Cromartie picked off Peyton like a shitload of times in a game. 2010?
No.
I'm just gonna start reeling off every year. I'm gonna get it then.
No. I also did not realize there's been this long of a gap since they've won their division.
Yeah, dude, because when Peyton showed up in Denver, they weren't going to win. And then it was like right after that, Mahomes came on the scene. You said there's 5 times?
There's 5. You got 06 and 07.
How about 11?
Nope.
Was Phillip Rivers the starting quarterback for all these?
I believe so, yes.
Then they can't go back before 06, right?
Okay, well, there's one before 06.
Okay, I don't know that one. At some point, I'm just going to be naming years.
Okay, well, that one is 04, so you were close when you said 05. This other year, you've kind of went around as well.
I think, didn't Phillips and Manning were in 04 draft, I believe.
I don't know. Let me look.
I'm almost positive. Because that was when they got traded for each other. So it probably would have been Breeze in 04.
Phillip Rivers was drafted in 2004.
Yep.
To the Giants.
Yep, and then he got traded on draft day. Let's see here.
Which is wild. Could you imagine that happening nowadays?
Well, Eli wasn't going to play in San Diego.
Yeah, but I mean, just I don't know. I just could not imagine.
I don't think it would happen nowadays because a guy would just be like, hey, I'm not playing there. So the team wouldn't draft him, you know what I mean? But nowadays, the gap in picks between the Chargers and the Giants, if that trade went down, there would have been a lot more compensation to trade up. But the trade didn't happen until after the picks were already made.
So you've got 04, 06, and 07, so you're missing 2 years.
So they were... Man. I know in the teens they got a couple.
The teens, they've got 1.
And
this other year, you've kind of danced around already.
Oh, 09?
Yep.
Yeah, and then it was like...
I want to see who's on this team.
It was right... Man. I remember watching them, but I'm not sure I could tell you what year it is. I'm wanting to say 16, but...
Mm-mm. Ooh, Dwight Freeney was on this team.
Oh, it was... Yeah, I really don't know.
Giving up?
Yeah, I'll give up.
At 2013.
13.
So, you're close. I think you said 14 the one time.
Yeah, so, I knew they did.
I just did not realize it had been that long. I mean, I know it makes sense now that you explained it, but...
Well, if you look at... who won it in 2014? It's been hard to win that division lately,
14 would have been when, I think that's when Peyton got there, right?
So the Chiefs have won it 9 straight years. And the Broncos won it 5 years before that.
Yep.
And then the Chiefs won it 1 time before that. And then the Chargers won it. This says they won it 4 in a row. 6, 7, 8, and 9.
I've got 4, 6, 7, 2009, and 13. Maybe it was like a
Well, they were 8 and 8 in 08, so maybe they tied or something.
Yeah, like a champion or whatever.
But yeah, it's sad, really.
Question for you here, Nate.
They've had some pretty good teams, man.
It's time for somebody else to win that division, though.
I agree.
What you got, Schneids?
So I got a text today from a good friend of ours, and I was wondering if you would be willing to take a trivia question from a fan.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so I'll give this person the shout out. This comes from our good friend Ty.
Are we starting a new segment right here?
Maybe.
I mean, if it's not commented on the show so everybody can see, that way, nobody knows ahead of time, I'm cool with it as long as it's not like we don't have 10 of them to do.
Right. I got this one from our good buddy Ty. Apparently had been watching a little TV, so that'll be a hint for you there. But his question states, what Braves player famously said they don't wash their jersey for good luck in the 2004 Little League World Series?
Read it one more time.
What Braves player famously said they don't wash their jersey for good luck in the 2004 Little League World Series?
Well, the only guess I think I would really have is Ozzy Albies.
You're on the right track, but that is not the right answer. Would you like a hint?
Sure.
This player played for Curacao.
Oh, well then it's Profar.
Correct.
Yeah. I was trying to think of they always, well, not always, but sometimes they'll talk about like MLB players and they played in the Little League World Series. There's really not that many of them. So I'm like, man, that's a good question.
Yeah. Shout out to Ty there.
Good question, Ty. All right, you guys got anything before I wrap this up?
Actually, I do have one more thing. I do apologize. I know I'm not trying to steal the spotlight here, but I do want to shout out another person. I will not say their last name, but I was out and about Friday evening watching some a show of slow pitch softball because I'm washed up and that's what I do now. But there was a gentleman by the first name of John had come up to me, shook my hand, and wanted to let me know and you guys know that they love the show, they love what we're doing, they think it's awesome, and they said keep up the good work. So I do want to shout him out. I appreciate the love and the support. If you guys see us out, don't, obviously, this isn't big time here, but don't be afraid to come up and shake our hands and talk to us about the show and whatnot. We appreciate everybody that listens.
Yeah, I'm thrilled with where we're at, being 6 episodes in, 170 plays. I think that's awesome. I've had people ask me about it, make comments about the show. If you guys out there listening, if you have a comment about something we said, you think we're dead wrong, you agree with us, whatever the case might be, comment on the show, comment on our Facebook posts. Let us know. Let's get a discussion going about some of these topics if you disagree or agree or whatever the case might be. I get excited when I see a comment on Spotify or Facebook. I want it to be a community type feel with our show. I know we've discussed a lot of ideas here at the Washed Up Podcast about engaging with the community as far as like kind of similar to what you and Ty just pulled off there with like a viewer or a listener trivia. So we are thinking about those things. So let us know what you think. Comment on our stuff and let your thoughts be heard.
I mean, that's the other thing I was going to touch on is just, don't be afraid to leave a comment. We do want this to be more of like kind of like what Nate said, like a community type thing, discussions. So, we really enjoy getting those comments and even the feedback, so that we can try to incorporate more things into the shows in the future. So don't be afraid to leave a comment, give us some of your hot takes and, maybe some of it'll be, end up on the show as a discussion point. So, we really enjoy reading the comments. We really love seeing the engagement. So, keep up the good work and we appreciate everybody that's listened so far.
All right. Amen to everything you both said. Episode 6 is now in the books. Thank you for listening, and a big thank you to my co-hosts Schneids and Derek for another great washed up episode. Be sure to let us know if you enjoyed or did not enjoy any of our takes in the form of like, comment, or podcast rating. Episode 7 is next week. Don't miss the 2025 NFL season prediction episode. Thank you.